Hi everyone! Let's talk about pre-writing and drafting a narrative. Our objectives are engage in individual brainstorming and pre-write a narrative. So brainstorming refers to the pre-writing technique wherein we have to organize our thoughts and think about what we have to write before the actual writing process. Second, recall author's point of view and discuss its effects on the story. And third, draft a narrative using either first person or third person point of view. So let's begin. What is a narrative? So we have discussed before that the purpose of a narrative is simple. It is to tell the audience a story. So it can be written to motivate the audience, to educate readers, or most commonly, to entertain. And narratives can be both fact or fiction. Lesson, we will be focusing on a specific type of narrative. It is the narrative short story. So a story tells about either a real or an imaginary experience or event. Now, if it tells about something that actually happened to the writer, then we call it a true story. In writing a narrative, we have to know what the different parts of a story are. So first, we should have a catchy, interesting beginning that would introduce the main characters and the setting of the story. Second, we have to make sure that the events are told in time order or sequence. There are many transitional devices or keywords that you can use in order to organize your events in sequence. Next, we also have what we call vivid details and dialogue that help readers understand the characters, events, and setting. So the details should paint a clear picture of what the events are, what the setting is, and also how the characters are engaging in conversations. Last, there should be an ending that tells how the story worked out and how the conflict of the story was solved. So we know that in the process writing approach, we have five basic steps. We have pre-writing, drafting, revising, proofreading, and publishing. For this lesson, we will be focusing on pre-writing and drafting. So first, before the actual writing process, we have to plan what we are going to write. We choose a topic, identify our audience and purpose, brainstorm ideas, and organize information. We should ask ourselves, what do we want to write about? Who will read our work and why do we have to write about it? And also, we have to ask ourselves how we can put our information and the different events of the story in proper sequence. We have also discussed about the plot diagram or the plot chart for a short story. So before the actual writing process, we should be able to organize the events and details of our story in a five-part plot chart. So first, we have the exposition or beginning of the story, wherein we introduce the character and the setting. Second, we have the rising action and conflicts or the problems in the story that would lead to character development. Third, we have the climax, which would be the most intense part or the turning point of our story. Next is the falling action, which would include conflicts that are resolved in the events. Last, we have the resolution, which indicates how the story ends. Let's begin our pre-writing. Let's say we want to write a story about this boy, Jason, who has to deliver a report in school. So, in a pre-writing setup, Jason's story would look like this. Jason was not able to pick an animal for the school report because he was sick. So, here in the beginning, you have introduced your main character, Jason, and of course, your setting, which would be the school on a school day. Jason wanted to report about leopards, but Sarah took his topic. So now we have in here the main problem. Jason doesn't know what to report about. Next, I try to help Jason by looking for something that he can use for the report. Now for the climax or the turning point of the story, another character introduced himself or herself to help the main character solve the problem. Next, I gave him a strange looking stick that is actually an insect. So here, in the falling action, the problem is gradually being resolved. I was happy that I helped Jason pick an animal for his school report. That is how the story ends. So now that we have organized our events and information in the pre-writing stage, we go to drafting. Here, we write our ideas in sentences and paragraphs, and we follow our pre-writing plan to write the first draft of our composition. Jason's story would look like this. First, there should be a very clear and compelling or attractive beginning. It makes readers want to find out more. So let's see how we began our story in the draft. On Thursday, everyone in our class picked animals for a report except Jason, who was out sick that day. It's not fair, Jason complained, because I want to find out about leopards. Sarah took my topic. Now, we go to the events of the story. We already know that the problem is that Jason wasn't able to get the topic that he wants. So we have, during lunch, I tried to help Jason. I named a few interesting animals. None wowed him. After lunch, we went outside for gym. I spotted an odd creature as soon as I ran to the field. It crawled along the warm red bricks of the school building. So we can see the very clear transition from one event to the next. We use transitional words like during, after, and as soon as. Next, we should also have strong details and dialogue, which would include sights, sounds, and words characters say. You have to make your characters talk. Hey Jason, here's your science report, I shouted excitedly, pointing to a thin brown twig. We're studying animals, Jason snapped. So now, how would our story end? We have to wrap up the story and tell how the writer felt. That walking stick is an insect, I explained. Jason grinned. Finally, he had a subject he liked. I felt proud to help my friend. So there you have it, your happy ending. Now, you can use the other transitional devices for your narrative. You have first, next, then, during, meanwhile, later, last, and until. This is to ensure that there is a smooth flow of events as you draft your narrative. So let's wrap it up. The purpose of a narrative is to tell the audience a story. It can be a fictional story or a factual story. So we have the first stage of writing a narrative, which is the pre-writing stage. It is good to brainstorm and organize your thoughts in this stage. When you go to the second step, which is drafting, you have to put your thoughts in sentences and paragraphs and make the narrative interesting. So you can find out more about this lesson by checking out our references and resources.